Live. We are live. Thank you, my friends. Sorry for the confusion. I had the wrong title and the wrong thumbnail. This is not a live feedback post. This is just a live composing and live stream Q&A or whatnot. But welcome everybody, welcome. So sorry about the confusion. No live feedback today. That's Halloween this year. That's October 31st. And I'm coming from another video call, so I'm a little all over the place right now. But let's just open a project, get started, shall we? So, updates. Will everybody know? Thank you to everyone who has updated for... Welcome, 23, welcome. So, thank you to everyone who has donated to the fundraiser. We have raised about $435 for... the Academy. Remember that first mile marker we are looking for is 3,000 to create a fifth free class. The fifth free class will be about mixing. All right. And again, this fundraiser is just to help get a little extra money so I can pay my bills and make sure that I can actually dedicate the amount of time necessary to actually build these classes. So thank you everyone who has donated so much. Thank you for your incredibly generous support. I appreciate each of you each and every one of you. But let's get started, shall we? Y'all know the drill. If you have questions, thoughts, ideas, suggestions, let me know. 23, loved those chord combos you posted on Instagram. They really opened my mind up to the intervals in a new way. Awesome, thank you. I know which ones you're talking about. You are talking about... We can actually work on that instead. Let's do that. Real samples. I think it's this one. These... chord relationships and emotion. These are things I've been doing on Instagram, and then after Instagram, I do them on YouTube. These ideas of like magical sounds in music. And like the tragic sounds in music. Because this is what I specialize in, right? Your boy specializes in emotions and music. That's what gets me work. That's why people hire me to teach them. That's why people hire me to develop classes for their schools and programs. This is why people hire me to compose music for their soundtracks. Because I am probably one of the foremost experts on emotions and music. And so these have all started as just simple little chord combos. And the red notes are the roots. And these are 3 chord combinations that work really well for kind of tragic sounds. First one being a major chord. Oops, get the piano going. A major chord, if I can find my piano pedal, it's all tangled underneath my desk, to an E minor. It doesn't have to be C major specifically to E minor. It just means a major triad, like C major, to the minor triad with a root, a major third above. So that could be an F major to an A minor, also works. And then obviously once you have like your basic sound, you can add additional qualities such as like the strings, choir, and instrument, like solo singer, to get more personality. So we can actually do a breakdown. I just claimed that I'm one of the foremost experts on emotions and music. I'll give you my basic model for emotions and music. All right, this comes from my background as a therapist. I went to school to be a therapist. 6 years of my life were dedicated to studying and practicing to be a therapist. Obviously that didn't work out well for me, did it? But the key to emotions and music come down to 3 things. All right, valence, size, energy. These 3 terms are each terms used in the world of psychology, specifically from a psychometric tool called the circumplex model of effect. You don't need to know that. The main thing you need to know is that these are 3 adjectives for describing emotion. Valence refers to how dark or bright an emotion is. Size refers to the degree to how overwhelming an emotion is. And energy is how draining or energizing an emotion is. Technically, size and energy typically get combined into just energy when talking about psychometric tools. I'll pull up a copy of my book on emotions and music, and we can actually visualize this. So this is the ebook copy of my book, Portraying Emotions with Music. And this right here is the tool that we're looking at. The circumplex model of affect. Where on the y-axis, we have high energy to no energy. On the x-axis, we have very negative to highly positive. And these are all spectrums. So you can see that there are 4 basic types of emotion. You have happier emotions that are high energy and positive. You have sadder emotions, which are lower energy, but still positive. Then you have kind of the angry emotions, which are both high energy and dark. They're negative emotions, but they're high energy. Then you have kind of like the super sad emotions. So these are more kind of like neutral, ambivalent, nostalgia. This is more kind of like tragic, sad, low energy, and negative valence. Now, the cool thing about this is if you can describe emotions across these 3, you get the same exact description of the emotions you're trying to portray. So, for example, we could say panic or existential dread. That's panic. The realization that you will die soon. All right? Valence. You describe that as pretty dark, right? Size. That's pretty overwhelming. All right? It's a very overwhelming emotion. There's not a lot else you can focus on. And energy. All right? That's pretty high. So very high energy. You can sort of think of it as, I'll actually give you some questions you can use as a guide for each of these. So to decide how dark or bright emotion is, ask yourself, would I want a loved one to experience this emotion? So if not, it's probably a dark emotion, right? If so, it's probably a bright emotion. If you're kind of like, it's not. If you find yourself on the fence, it's probably more of an ambivalent, more of a neutral emotion. Apologies. Size would be, does experiencing this emotion hijack my day? Basically, are you able to focus on other stuff, or is this emotion all you have? All right. And then energy. Another question. How easily could you tell just from their body language that someone was experiencing this emotion? All right? So these questions help get you started. So if we think about existential dread and panic, it's pretty dark. You would not want a loved one realizing that they're about to die. All right? That kind of panic, you don't want that. Size. That's pretty overwhelming. If you realize you're about to die, when you are confronted with your mortality, there's not really a lot else you can focus on. And energy, that panic, that fear is probably going to set in. You're going to feel something. All right? It's going to be very readily apparent by someone having an emotional breakdown that they're going through something. All right? Once you have this description, it becomes a matter of just what strategies can you use with music? Which musical strategies can you apply to create music that fits this description? All right, and again, I will list off 9 different types of strategies. Tempo, timbre, texture, rhythm, register, articulation, dynamics, harmony, and melody. All right, there's some overlap between each of these, but these are 9 parameters of music. All right, and you can go one by one. and find different strategies. So to create something about dread and panic, say dark, what strategies could we use? Minor harmony. Emphasize the lower register. Use darker instrumentation. Those are all great strategies for creating a dark feeling. So size. You could say use multiple octaves. Strong dynamics. Strong accents on important beats. And multiple different layers. That's what texture comes down to. Texture is the number and types of layers. Energy. This is where I wish you guys were kind of like live with me. The chat is super helpful, but these types of lessons, these are the kind of things I teach in my private lessons. So I enjoy having someone on camera with me so we can bounce ideas off of each other. But energy, if you guys have ideas for each of these, put them in the comments. Let me know. Energy, what kind of strategies can you have for very high energy? Lots of rhythmic layers. Lots of different registers. Fast note subdivisions. So fast note values, like 16th notes, 8th notes, stuff like that. Faster, stuff like that. And so pretty soon, just by starting by describing your emotion across valence, size, and energy, you've got a good description of your music already. Your music's going to use minor harmony, all right? It's going to help emphasize that lower register. It's going to use darker instrumentation. For the overwhelming size, multiple octaves, strong dynamics, strong accents on important beats, and multiple different layers. Energy, lots of rhythmic layers, lots of different registers, fast note subdivisions. Now, what happens for the opposite? Calm acceptance. All right? So the idea of being a little more stoic, accepting of your fate. Let's describe this. All right? Valence. All right. Would you want a loved one to experience this emotion? I think calm acceptance, that would depend on the type of scenario. Obviously, if it's the same kind of thing, be confronted with their own mortality, probably going to be a bit on the darker side. I wouldn't want them to experience that. Best case scenario, I would want them to like feel calm and accept it. I want them panicking, but it's still a dark experience to go through. I wouldn't want that. But again, each of these are all subjective. These are all things that you get to decide as the composer, as the storyteller. All right. Size. How overwhelming is calm acceptance? Are you able to focus on size? It's pretty calm. It's in the name, calm acceptance. So it's fairly intimate, not too overwhelming. So small size, as opposed to the massive size that we had for the existential dread and panic. And then energy. Calm acceptance, low energy. You can't really tell by someone looking at they're not doing very physical body language with this kind of thing. You can again think of how physical is the expression of this emotion. So let's go through this. Dark, again, minor harmony, strong low registers, darker instrumentation. Those are all great strategies. Size, thinner texture. Thinner texture just means like fewer layers. You don't have as many octaves. Not as many octaves. Softer dynamics, stuff like that. Energy, low energy again, so thinner texture. Some of those things can overlap. Longer note values, less rhythmic activity. Encoder, arpeggios, fantastic idea for energy. Lots of arpeggios. Really cool, right? So you can already see this model taken from the world of psychology, from the world of psychometrics, of valence, size, and energy. It's a fantastic tool. Now, the cool thing, this was all theoretical. So let's say you have a scenario. A young musician, a young piano player, has just gotten off the phone. She's practicing piano, gets the phone call from her doctor. She had a checkup on something, gets on the phone, and gets the news that her cancer has progressed. It is now terminal. There is nothing they can do. She has been now officially been given 3 months. All right? Not much she can do about that. She's in shock. Starts off with calm acceptance. Gets back to practicing the piano. as she plays, as she begins to process, as she starts to get hit with the gravity of everything, she starts to panic, and the music that she's practicing starts to morph with that. That is the scenario I was given for my very first play that I ever scored. Which, this is the cool thing. Central Michigan University is performing this play. I composed the music for this a very long time ago, like 3-4 years ago, so not super long ago, but long enough. I composed the music for this several years ago. And Central Michigan University just purchased the rights to perform the play in later October. So watch as we have this description. Calm acceptance, dark, fairly intimate, and low energy. As we move on to existential panic, dark, overwhelming size, so big size, and high energy. Keep those in mind, and here we go. And then the script said that at the end, like, she just kind of gave up and started crying on the piano. So that's what that whole thing was. This was me just kind of slapping the keyboard, and at the end, literally just taking my two hands and just kind of pressing them down on the keyboard in front of me to get this, pretending to be like collapsing, crying on the piano. But see how that works. Emotions and music are not some mysterious language. Yes, they are beautiful. And yes, there are some mysterious components, but there is no mystery behind how and why music portrays emotions. There isn't. But yet musicians consistently lack this. They always forget about this. And it makes sense. If you want to learn how to write counterpoint, how do you study counterpoint? You study counterpoint by studying what other composers did for counterpoint. If you want to learn harmony, how do you study harmony? You study harmony by studying what other composers did for harmony. If you want to write melody writing, you study music. So it's always starting with the music. But we get it wrong with templates for emotions. Composers consistently, for decades, for centuries, the method that Berklee uses to teach emotions is, hey, if you want to learn how to write sad music, study what composers have done for sad music. No, that's so backwards, because the music isn't the source of the emotion itself. It can be, it can trigger emotions, but the music describes an emotion. And if you want to write truly emotional music, you have to start by describing the emotion you want to portray, and then coming up with the strategies of doing that yourself. Don't just study another musician. That's so backwards. Yes, there are lots of ways you can study from other musicians. You can learn cool tricks by studying what other musicians did. But if you're constantly trying to create templates based off what other people did to portray other emotions, emotions are unique. Emotions are context specific. They are tremendously complex. By their very nature, emotions are a tool human beings use to make sense of the world around us. All right? We experience something in the world through sensory information. We form an emotional context behind that experience, and that emotional context allows us to make sense of what we've just experienced. Case in point, you see a hot pan as a child. Child touches the hot pan. Ouch, that hurt. I don't like that pain. Facto ergo, or whatever this phrase is, hot pans are bad. I'm going to keep that association moving forward. Don't touch hot pans because of that emotional, painful experience. Because I had a painful experience, I attached emotional meaning to that, and now I have this understanding, don't touch hot pans ever again. All right? Emotions are unique based off the cases we have. And so to portray any emotion with music, you just need to understand this process. How do you describe the emotion? How do you describe its valence? How do you scribe it across size? How do you scribe it across energy? And then most importantly, how do you then translate those 3 parameters across these 9 distinct pillars of music? If you can do that, you will never struggle to portray a single emotion. All right? And to my knowledge, I am the only music teacher out there teaching this model. If you ever meet anyone else who teaches this model, they learned it from me because I'm the one who introduced this. I've never met anyone else who even thought about this. This is a tool from psychology. This comes from my 6 years of experience training to be a therapist and just bringing this over to the world of composing. I don't know of a lot of therapists turned professional composers who also teach music. But this is something that I very specifically have brought over to the world. So if you see other YouTubers and people starting to talk about this model, just know it started here, right? And if you want a very detailed breakdown of this entire thing, check out my website, browse my bookshop. You have 2 options. You have the book version, which is the thing that I just pulled up, that I just showed you the book. It's got good reviews. Check out the book. Or if you want access to the lessons and me, I do have an Emotions of Music class. You get access to the beta testing. The beta testing of my new course, Cinematic Storytelling, is going very slowly. Sorry about that. I am a one-man band. But I've got 3 modules out, I believe, maybe 2, already. And the next module is coming out next week. So keep an eye out for that. But you automatically get enrolled in that, and you get the class, you get the videos and the lessons, and you get 3 private lessons with me, one-on-one, talking about the course or whatever material you want to discuss. There are payment plans available. And while we're here, you can also check out the Academy for free classes on music theory. Right now, I am hosting a fundraiser to raise money for the next 3 courses. Right now, there are 4 free classes. We're raising money to get 3 new ones. At 3,000, we unlock Intro to Mixing. At 6,000, I will have the funds to do both intro to mixing and reading and writing notation. And at 9,000, I'll be able to do intro to mixing, reading and writing music notation, and creating realistic MIDI mockups. The deadline for the first one is October. If we don't make the first, if we don't miss the first $3,000 by the end of October, unfortunately, I'm very grateful to everyone who's supported so far. We have raised $435 this month. Thank you to everybody. This money is being raised to pay my living expenses while I work on these classes. Since these classes are 100% free, anyone can sign up and just take these classes free. I do not make money off of them. The fundraiser basically allows me to say, okay, yeah, I can dedicate this time. My bills will be paid. My student loan payments will be made. I'll have my groceries. I'll have my gas money. I'll have all of that. So I can dedicate 1 month per class to making these without having to worry about whether I can afford to basically survive. So that's what the fundraiser is for. There are different recommended tiers, but any donation helps. So thank you very much to everyone who has supported so far. If you are able to, stop by the page, make a quick donation, enroll in some cool, kick-ass free classes, and help support the growth of even more free resources for composers out there like you. Encoder, the source. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you like the music. The source of emotions is us. Yes, very much so. And want to see the cool thing? Is this model is useful not just for creating emotions, but adapting ideas as well. Let's do one more, shall we? Bittersweet. All right. Valence. I'm going to say this is neutral. Both dark and bright elements. Size. I'm going to say this is pretty intimate. And then energy, I'm going to say pretty low energy. So bittersweet, you don't imagine people like weeping, wailing, and gnashing their teeth. There's not these big, physically expressive moments. So now, we need strategies for creating a neutral, both dark and bright valence. I'm going to say extended harmony. 7ths and 9ths. These, so if I pull up piano, extended harmony is like my go-to for neutral sounds. A nice 7th chord, nice 9th. Just these beautiful little crunchy jazzy chords are great for creating those ambiguous, nostalgic qualities in music. So we'll use that. Fairly intimate. So we'll say thin texture. Soft dynamics. Not too many registers such octaves. Low energy, I'll say slower tempo, longer note values, slower moving layers. Yeah, Encoder, I agree. The 7th chord and the 9ths always have that beautifully rich, nostalgic feeling, don't they? And so now we have, what if we were to take this melody, this one that we just listened to? I'm now going to actually play the melody 3 times. We will hear each of these emotions portrayed by one melody. Emotion number 1, calm acceptance. For if you weren't on here, the concept is a musician has just been given a terminal diagnosis, and she gets back to trying to practice piano and just kind of, so she starts off very calm, try to accept it like all things happen for a reason, I'll be fine kind of thing. And these are the strategies for creating that calm feeling of acceptance. And it starts growing as the reality starts to crash down. And we hit a new emotion, panic. And then later in the same play, the melody returns. This time as a bittersweet love theme that she records for her husband and he listens to after she's passed away. And these are the strategies. Same exact melody, just slight little tweaks to get a new emotion. Same melody, dramatically different emotional context. Because I took the time to figure out the valence, the size, and the energy of my emotion, and then brainstorm what specific strategies could I use to bring each of those to life within the boundaries of the melody I had already written. So, No has a great question. Do you take these notes always, or is it just for people hopping into chat and streams? Always. Always, always. I am a huge believer in note-taking for multiple reasons. One, I have, in case you didn't even notice, severe ADHD. We will call it a terminal case of ADHD almost. Very severe, and taking notes helps me organize my thoughts and stay on focus. Number 2, working on a soundtrack, it's a long haul. It takes a long time working to write music for an entire soundtrack. So when I take notes, it allows me to remember what I was thinking. So if I work on this piece and then I decide to start working on a different piece and I come back a week later, I can read all my notes and go like, oh, awesome. I remember what I was going for. I remember what I was working towards. I believe the record is for the play I did in 2022, I think it was 2022, 2023, called The Bridge. I think my record was I took 98 pages of notes. Just across the different pieces of music I was composing and writing. I love taking notes. I feel they help get my thoughts onto paper. They help me conceptualize the strategies I want to apply. And of course, it helps keep continuity. So that 2 weeks from now, if I'm getting stuck and I'm not sure what I want to work with or what I was going for, I can just reread and go like, it's almost like a journal. I can be like, oh, that's what I was thinking. Huh. Yeah, that actually was a good idea. I'm going to keep going back with that kind of thing, if that makes sense. Encoder, I've never thought about taking the same melody and changing emotions with it. Interesting. Oh yeah, that is necessary for film scoring and media composing. It's a requirement of the trade. You have to take themes and develop them. So for example, I'll just talk about a couple different ways it's used. Character themes. They reflect the growth a character undergoes. All right, so how is a character different at the end of the story versus the beginning of the story? You want to track each of the decisions that they make, each of the opportunities throughout the story that push them further along that arc. And each time that happens, every time the character makes a conscious decision that forces them further along their development, you use their theme. And that theme needs to change, it needs to develop so it matches the emotions of that scene, that it portrays their growth, their development, whether that makes them a better person or a worse person, and that still remains recognizable as their theme. Those are the 3 responsibilities. All right, so match the emotion of the scene. That's number 1 responsibility. 2, match the development, or portray the growth / development they are experiencing. And, of course, remain recognizable as their theme for continuity. Those are the responsibilities of a character theme. And all types of themes have similar responsibilities. Whether you have character themes, journey themes, for example, the theme, Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, that theme is technically a journey, not a character theme. Lots of people misattribute it. It's like, oh, this is the theme of the characters in the Fellowship. No. It is a theme that tracks the journey of the ring. So journey / goal themes reflect the progress made towards a goal. Are the decisions the character's making bringing them closer to achieving their goal, or making it harder for them to achieve it? Then you have like lessons / moral themes, which reflect important lessons the story is trying to share. For example, weakness and redemption is a big one, again, from Lord of the Rings. If you guys want to learn more about this, that's what my new class is all about that I'm currently building. This, if you want to learn more about emotions in music and storytelling with music, the best deal right now, again, go to Tabletop Composer, Education, Emotions and Music class. Sign up for the class. You'll get the Emotions and Music class. You'll get all the class materials. You get 3 private lessons, and you'll automatically get enrolled in the new class I'm building, which is an expansion of this. The new module I'm putting up is based on this entire class, but it also covers a lot of stuff about like character themes. And an entire module is like, all right, how do you write a character theme? Similar to like how I just showed you how to write a theme that captures a specific emotion. It's like, all right, well, how do you write a theme that captures a specific character? And that kind of cool stuff. How do you write a theme, create a sound palette that portrays a very specific world and a setting and a time period and stuff like that? That's what that class is all about. And everyone who signs up for the Emotions and Music class is going to get added to that as a beta tester. Epic Fish, hello. You asked to repeat this question on stream. Can you please explain how to write idiomatically for guitar? Excellent question. I am not a very competent guitar player. One moment. Well, I am a competent guitar player. I've been playing guitar for years. And a couple of my soundtracks, I've actually had to compose parts specifically for guitar. What I do have is a shelf full of resources. And it has tips on playing guitar. So the book I am sharing tips from right now is called Acoustic and MIDI Orchestration for the Contemporary Composer by Routledge. It's a fantastic book. I recommend this very highly. If you want to learn about realistic MIDI mockups, well, learn about composing using sound libraries and all that stuff. Fantastic resource. Let's see what they have to say about writing for guitar. Because I remember they had good points for, let's see, the rhythms section. So that's MIDI continuous controllers. That's not what we want. Let me see here. That's the Overtone series. It's a great one. Hazards for writing for piano. Summary. Writing and sequencing for the rhythm section. Here we go. Getting closer. Keyboards and guitars. Keyboards, drum sets. Where's the guitars? Bass parts, drum set parts, guitar parts. The chord symbols, however, just kind of except for playing the melody. All right. So they do not have a lot of information on writing specifically. But they do have some tips. So I'm going to write out what those tips are. All right. I apologize. This is not a comprehensive guide to writing for guitar, but it's good tips. I am not a guitar teacher. Okay. All right. Tips for writing for guitar. All right. Tip number 1. It says, write no more than 4 notes in a voicing and keep them arranged in a more open position. All right. It says, take the second note from the top of a closed voicing and drop it down an octave. All right. It says this is a general guideline. And it says if you're writing super low, if you're writing super low, do the opposite. Take the second note from standby playing guitar. Take the second note from the top and raise it an octave. And raise it an octave. So the example that they have illustrated in the book is starting out with a chord that looks like this. All right. In fact, let's get a guitar, shall we? I've got guitar libraries. Let's do, not the factories. We'll do bass, guitar. We'll do nylon guitar. All right, so it says stick to just 4 notes and pick your chords like this. Let's zoom in a little bit. We've got a chord that looks like this. All right, so we got a C major 7. All right, we're going to take the second to highest note and drop it an octave. And it says this creates a much more realistic sounding guitar chord. That does sound much more realistic. All right. As a guitar player, that definitely sounds much more like a guitar chord. And yeah, so that's the main one. That's the tip that it's got here. That's the most applicable one. That's what I would recommend. Other than that, like I said, I am not a professional guitar teacher. I know enough guitar to perform and write parts with tablature. And the way I write them is I write them with my guitar. So that's how I know they're playable, is because I can play them. If I can play them, most competent guitar players can play it, because I am not particularly good. But if you would like to learn more, again, the book I was just referencing to answer your question is right here, Acoustic and MIDI Orchestration for the Contemporary Composer by Andrea Pedrolo, apologies, and Richard DeRosa. All right, fantastic book. I've read this multiple times. I love it. It's amazing. Femme Queen. One cool thing I've noticed in writing music is that if you start looking for the meaning in a piece's tonality, eventually it loops back around to the listener. Yes, it does. Epic Fish. Yeah, it's entirely subjective. Your music takes the meaning that you bring with it. One of the most beautiful things I've ever heard someone say is like, well, what do I get out of this? What do I get out of that? It's like, well, what do you bring to it? All right, what do you get out of a piece of music? Well, what are you bringing to it? So yeah, Epic Fish, a open chord is basically just a chord that where you skip notes. So for example, this G is missing. All right. We could do raise that an octave, and then suddenly this E is missing. This is still a C major 7. But it's missing a couple notes. So open voicing just means that you skip some notes. And that's going to be much more useful for guitar, since the guitar, each of the strings are tuned a perfect fifth apart, and you want to make sure that the fingers aren't jammed together trying to play some stuff. Excellent. So 23 is providing some more feedback on guitar. Excellent. Well, I hate to do it, but I think I'm going to probably call it a little early today. Happy to help, Epic Fish. I think I'm going to call it a little early today. I'm pretty exhausted. If anyone has any other specific questions, I'd be happy to address them. We've covered a lot of material today. Again, I'm going to go out and say it. I firmly believe that I am the best, most foremost expert in terms of composing and emotions. My 6 years of experience, I went to the #1 school in the world for therapy. I don't think I've ever pointed that out. #1 program in the world for social work therapy was the University of Michigan in the years 2017 through 2019. And that's where I went. So I am very academically educated in terms of therapy and psychometric tools. I did lots of research while I was there. And then I didn't use any of it. I became a composer instead. And so I still brought a lot of this with me. To my knowledge, I'm the only composer who teaches this model. And it's my specialty. So if you want to learn more, like I said, check out that class. Hey, welcome for becoming a channel. Thank you for being a member, JF. I appreciate you. So yeah, check out the class. It's $250. It comes with 3 private lessons and a full class, and you automatically get added to the beta testing of my new class I'm building. Pretty good deal. And there are payment plans available for people who don't want to make that full payment right off the bat. There's also a cheaper option if you want the ebook. The ebook has all the notes from the class, and that's much cheaper. It's $60. Let's say custom voice arts. Is there a way or technique to turn words or lyrics into a melody? All right, here's the tips. All right. Start with the rhythm. All right. Personally, I have had to set a lot of lyrics to music. Working in theater, I've had to do it a lot. Start with your rhythm. Try to make sure the lyrics provide a consistent or close to consistent rhythmic pattern across sections. That means your refrain should have its own rhythm. The verses, verse 1 and verse 2, if they're supposed to have the same melody, they should have the same rhythm. All right? That's a big struggle that I have a lot with different lyricists I've worked with, is the inconsistency of lyrics. Whereas like, all right, here's verse 1. It's like, awesome. Verse 1 has a very nice rhythm. Verse 2 has a completely different rhythm. And here's what I'm going to say about rhythm. Like, when finding your rhythm, accented, not vowels, what's the word? Okay, accented syllables should have longer, more accented rhythmic values. The rhythm of the lyrics should go naturally with the rhythm of the music. So if you are doing attack, all right, the word attack has that accent on the second one. Attack, all right, ack. That's where it has more emphasis in the word. So that part of the word should have a stronger rhythmic emphasis than the other parts. If you want a good book, a good recommendation. Okay, I don't know how artsy you are. Some people have a very artsy. If you want a nice artsy approach, a book that I learned a lot, and again, I have this massive library next to me, From Words to Music, a user's guide to text for choral musicians. Fantastic resource. I recommend it a lot. A bit of a drier read, but well worth it. The thing I will recommend from this, they have a lot of steps, a very keen process. My recommendation, absorb what's useful, reject what's not, all right? Some things you're like, all right, that seems a little silly. I don't think I need that. Doesn't work in my workflow. Then don't do that. But this one will break down a lot of like the craft for it. So I recommend that. Find it in a library, find a copy online, all kinds of stuff. Awesome. Happy to help. No, happy to help. 23. Whoa, I love that question. I used Melodyne to analyze vocals, then turn it into MIDI, but that's absolute cheating. LOL. Yes, that's something I don't talk about a lot on here, is setting lyrics to music, but it's something I do have lots of experience with. I don't have a lot of experience writing lyrics, but I do have a lot of experience, a lot of professional experience taking lyrics and setting them to music. This would be the big one. This is the big one that I would find. A lot of it can be intuitive, just as long as this is how you're going to know whether the lyrics are working or not. Whether that rhythmic pattern of, all right, the third syllable is always accented. The fifth syllable is always accented. Seventh syllable is always accented. If you've got that nice rhythmic flow, that's what's going to make it work, because then the melody you write can work well for each of them. If not, then you're going to have to write multiple different melodies or change the lyrics. Excellent. All right. Hope that was helpful. That looks like we've come to the end of our questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, JF, for becoming a channel member. Welcome everybody who's come to the channel. It's been wonderful seeing so many new faces. Don't forget to leave a like on the stream. And again, last call. If you want free lessons, check out the Academy. I have 4 classes, 100% free. You do not have to pay anything. You sign up. I've had 15 people join since like in the last week. Free classes on harmony, melody writing, and orchestration and arranging. Right now, I am running a fundraiser to help crowdfund the making of 3 more courses. Each class takes about a month of full-time effort to build. I don't make money off these classes. The part of the Academy has always been, you could always donate. The Academy has been around for 2 years. I have made $7 off of it. People just don't donate for the classes, unfortunately. No shade. I didn't make these to make money. I made these as a passion project of mine. But because I don't make money off of these, in order to justify taking the time to dedicate it to making like a full-time effort for a full month to make a new class, I have to make sure my bills are paid. I have to make sure I'm not going to default on my insurance payments, on my student loan payments. I need to make sure I can eat. I need to make sure that the power is not going to get shut off I need to make sure I don't get evicted, all that cool stuff, all the struggles of being a professional musician and just a person I guess. So my cost of living is just under $3,000 a month. So for 1 month of making a free class, every $3,000 we raise, that's a month I can dedicate to making new classes. Right now we have raised $435. So 14% of the way to the first class. If we keep raising money, and then there are different tiers, different rewards and stuff that you can get, then you can also just make a regular donation for whatever amount you want to give. If we do not make the $3,000 by the end of the fundraiser, which is only running until the end of October, if we don't make the $3,000, I'm still going to make the intro to mixing class out of respect for everyone who's already donated. I just won't be able to prioritize it. So instead of this class coming out December 1st, it'll probably come out in May, most likely. Sometime in May is when I would be able to start working on this. I'd be able to have it done by then. But then if we don't raise the money, unfortunately, I would not start working on either of these classes either. Just because your boy's got to eat. So if you'd like to see these classes, help spread the word, make some donations, consider participating and just helping to raise the money. Like I said, each mile marker that we hit is another free class that we can make for just the entire online community of composers. So thank you very much. That's my last little sales pitch. 23, any new chord combos in the future? Did you cover them all? I think, oh yeah, there's plenty of chord combos coming out. I'm going to be doing lots of videos based on that. There's no shortage of them. If you want a nice little guide, check out my blog. And it's this one, How Chords Portray Emotions with Chords and Emotions Chart. This blog post breaks down basically the references I've been using to make these lists. Check it out. It's cool. And want to see something really cool? Want to see something really cool? Or at least I think it's cool. Look up Chords and Emotion. Boom! Top choice is your boy. Again, I'm an expert on this stuff. All right. I am the very top. That's not even sponsored. Google just knows. Google knows that I'm good. All right, check that out. But thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone who's donated. Thank you, everyone who has showed support. Thank you to everyone who stopped by. I am looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend, my friends. I will see you all later. Bye-bye.